to talk about a certain individual. An individual that is probably one of the most important characters in the entirety of the Star Wars galaxy, if not one of the most important people in Star Wars as a whole. And today I want to talk about the Jedi Master known as Obi-Wan Kenobi. So today we are going to be talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi, his history, and everything about Obi-Wan Kenobi all the way from his birth, all the way to his death, and even afterwards. So without further ado, here we go. But first, as always, we have to start with a little bit of a breakdown. Obi-Wan Kenobi was born on the planet of Stewjon at about 57 BBY, not to be confused with the late-night comedian known as Jon Stewart, who totally didn't have a planet named after him simply because that he was the only person alive who ever thought of the idea that Obi-Wan Kenobi would be born on a planet to parents or to just anyone in general, which is absolutely insane. At about the age of 3 years old, Obi-Wan Kenobi was finally taken to the Jedi Temple so he could start his tutelage to become a Jedi. And for those about 10 years between the time where he was 3 years old and 13 years old, he didn't have a master. A lot of different people didn't really think that Obi-Wan Kenobi had the aptitude to actually become a Jedi, so they really didn't bother trying to take him in or really try to train him in any way, shape, and form. It wasn't until literally Qui-Gon Jinn found Obi-Wan Kenobi and decided to take him on as his apprentice that Obi-Wan Kenobi actually got some experience, and because of Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan became a actual Jedi Padawan and became his apprentice for well over 12 years. During the time of Obi-Wan Kenobi's training under the tutelage of Qui-Gon Jinn, it was a little back and forth between the two of them. Obi-Wan Kenobi was a little aggressive, and Qui-Gon Jinn was a little unorthodox in his usual methods, whereas Obi-Wan Kenobi had been trained under Master Yoda and learned a strict set of rules for the Jedi Order. Qui-Gon Jinn wasn't really comfortable with those rules and thought that emotional attachments were actually okay as long as you didn't allow them to influence you and you didn't turn to the dark side. This ultimately caused Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn to differ on several different occasions, and they would go throughout the entirety of their time as master and apprentice through a lot of different missions. Diplomatic missions, infiltrate and escape missions, dealing with multitudes of different threats like assassins, battle droids, and all these different variations of politics. And it was about time where they went through the Anchori Uprising, the Teth Incident, where Qui-Gon pushed Obi-Wan to act independently, and of course the incident with Satine Kryze and the Mandalorians. During some time within the time frame of Obi-Wan Kenobi being a teenager, he would meet Duchess Satine during a Mandalorian civil war, where young Obi-Wan Kenobi would be smitten, and the two of them would develop feelings for each other, and Satine would develop feelings back. Satine and Obi-Wan Kenobi would feel very much deep, unfulfilled love towards each other, and the two of them obviously would not be together because Obi-Wan Kenobi would go off to the Jedi Order so he could become a Jedi Knight, and Satine obviously had to stay on Mandalore to become the Duchess of Mandalore in the first place. And throughout that entire time, Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi would be master and apprentice for a very long time. That is until the time of 32 BBY, during the time of the invasion of Naboo crisis, where Obi-Wan Kenobi and his master Qui-Gon Jinn would be sent to Naboo to deal with trade negotiations between the Trade Federation and the people of Naboo, which would ultimately result in them almost getting assassinated and murdered by the Trade Federation scoundrel known as Newt Gunray, and them having to escape the ship, go down to Naboo, get the Queen of Naboo, flee off the planet of Naboo, and then go their way towards Tatooine so they could hide out and so they could find a Nubian hyperdrive to replace the one that got shot whenever they were flying around trying to escape the Trade Federation when they were trying to shoot them down. This then results in them finding Anakin Skywalker, who would be the chosen one. Anakin would then go with them to Coruscant, and they would encounter a Sith Lord by the name of Darth Maul shortly before leaving the planet. They would then go to Coruscant, try to resolve the issue of not only the Trade Federation, but also what to do with Anakin Skywalker because he had the highest count of midichlorians that had ever been seen or detected in a Jedi. So they went to the Jedi Council to determine what was going to happen with Anakin, and they said they weren't going to train him because he was too old. This resulted in Qui-Gon Jinn deciding to say, hey, F you guys, I'm going to take this kid as my apprentice anyway, and Obi-Wan can go and deal with the Jedi trials because I think he has earned the right to become a Jedi Knight. Now, Obi-Wan Kenobi originally thought that Qui-Gon Jinn was just pushing him aside because he just wanted him to get out of the way so he could train Anakin Skywalker, but unfortunately for him, his ill thoughts about his master would unfortunately come back to bite him in the ass, as Qui-Gon Jinn would be killed by Darth Maul, and Darth Maul would get cut in half by Obi-Wan Kenobi during the Battle of Naboo and during their first interaction with the Sith Lord in almost 1,000 years. Qui-Gon Jinn then gave Obi-Wan Kenobi his final words, basically telling him that he wanted him to take on the mastery role of Anakin Skywalker and that he would train the boy to the best of his abilities because Qui-Gon Jinn thought that Anakin Skywalker was truly the chosen one. This then ultimately resulted in a 20-something-year-old Obi-Wan Kenobi, a fresh Jedi Knight, taking on an extremely unorthodox situation where he would have to teach a literal slave child that was way too old to become a Jedi in the first place and take him on as his apprentice, regardless of what the Jedi Council thought. This then resulted in Obi-Wan Kenobi taking on Anakin Skywalker as his apprentice for more than 10 years. That is until 22 BBY during the time of the Battle of Geonosis, the near assassination of Padme Amidala, and the start of the Clone Wars. To keep an extremely long story short, Obi-Wan Kenobi would be placed on the 212th Attack Battalion alongside Commander Cody, and the two of them would support Anakin Skywalker in the 501st Legion as they traveled throughout the entirety of the galaxy during the Clone Wars, fighting against General Grievous, Count Dooku, Asajj Ventress, and God knows how many other droid commanders and droid generals throughout the entirety of the time of the 3 years between 22 BBY and 19 BBY. Throughout that entire time, Obi-Wan Kenobi would face off against God knows how many opponents, be alongside Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano, and that would all come to a head during the time of 19 BBY and the Battle of Coruscant, where Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi would save Chancellor Palpatine from the clutches of Count Dooku, and Anakin Skywalker would kill down Count Dooku during their duel. Obi-Wan Kenobi, immediately after the Battle of Coruscant, then goes to Utapau so he can face off against General Grievous, as he is the final individual who is in charge of the entirety of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. He then faces off against General Grievous, kills General Grievous, and then the clones turn on him. As Order 66 is issued, Commander Cody orders to shoot down Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Obi-Wan Kenobi flees from the planet and manages to find the Senator of Alderaan, known as Bail Organa, and Jedi Master Yoda, who had his own battalion turn on him and who had to escape from the planet of Kashyyyk. Immediately after finding Bail Organa and Jedi Master Yoda, he learns that there is a communication from the Jedi Temple where the Empire is effectively telling every Jedi to come back to the Jedi Temple so they can hunt them down and kill them. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Jedi Master Yoda then go to the Jedi Temple, disable the communications, and warn all the Jedi to stay away, and warn everybody to stay as far away from the Empire as possible and go into exile. This, unfortunately, then causes Obi-Wan to find out that the person who has been killing the Jedi was, unfortunately, Anakin Skywalker, who had now become Darth Vader. He then goes to Padme to find out where exactly Anakin is, and finds out that Anakin is on Mustafar after sneaking onto Padme's ship to basically stalk her and find out where Anakin is. This then results in a massive duel against Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, where Obi-Wan ends up the victor after cutting off Anakin's left arm and his two legs, causing him to almost fall into a river of lava and nearly die after being set on fire. Obi-Wan Kenobi then takes Padme Amidala to Polis Massa, where she gives birth to Luke and Leia, and they have to have a major conversation after Padme dies during childbirth. Obi-Wan Kenobi takes the young boy Luke Skywalker to Tatooine to his aunt and uncle, and of course Bail Organa takes the young girl Leia so they can raise her on Alderaan. Obi-Wan Kenobi then is instructed to do one more thing by Master Yoda, and that is training to learn how to become one with the Force, and learning how to become one with the Force by training under the one, the only Qui-Gon Jinn. Obi-Wan Kenobi then spends the next 19 years looking over Luke Skywalker, making sure that he is safe from all kinds of dangers, including the Empire and including Tusken Raiders. That is until the time of about 1 ABY, where Obi-Wan Kenobi manages to save Luke Skywalker from Tusken Raiders and goes with him to find the Jawas that sold off R2D2 and C3PO after they landed on the planet and they were basically abducted by said Jawas. Turns out that the Empire killed Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru looking for these droids, and Luke Skywalker decides to go with Obi-Wan Kenobi so he can learn how to be a Jedi. Obi-Wan Kenobi takes him under his wing, makes him his new apprentice, and after finding the smuggler Han Solo, manages to get him to take all of them to Alderaan while also training Luke Skywalker in the ways of the Force. This unfortunately then results in them getting to Alderaan, finding out that it was destroyed, getting onto the Death Star, and Obi-Wan Kenobi faces off against Lord Vader for the last time as he sees that Luke is fine and Luke and Leia have been reunited, and he finally gives up and allows Vader to strike him down, becoming one with the Force and turning into a Force ghost. From then on, as a Force ghost, Obi-Wan Kenobi guided Luke Skywalker, appearing to him at crucial moments to offer advice, like telling him to go to Dagobah and urging him not to abandon his training with Yoda to save his friends, while also becoming more powerful than could possibly imagined by any Jedi, while also providing assistance and eventually teaching Anakin how to achieve the same state as he transcended physical limitations, becoming one with the Force and gaining the ability to manifest his spirit to influence events and communicate across vast distances. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to hit that like button, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and maybe we'll talk about another Jedi sometime in the future. Until then, I will see you guys later. May the Force be with you.